I'm gonna, yeah. If you have,
Oh,
no,
I see a live button up in the corner.
there we go. There we go. So, hello everyone, and welcome to the very, very first live stream episode of Books and Shit with your girl Charlie Author. As you can see, I have some wonderful guests with me today. I'm going to let these girls, all these lovely ladies, introduce themselves. Like, we'll start at the top. I think everyone's in the same order on their screens. Yeah.
Mhm.
So we'll start with you, Chelsea, and then go to the right and down and along. So yeah, we'll introduce everyone, and then we'll talk about what we're going to discuss in the episode. So go.
All right. Hello, everyone. I am Chelsea, better known as CM Lockhart. I am the author of this lovely book right here. We Are the Origin, coming out June 21st, 2022. Really excited about it. It is a fantasy with a predominantly Black cast about a group of assassins who have to work together to save the realm and the gods from destruction. I am also an author-tuber. I'm also a podcaster. I'm also the owner of the Melanin Library, which is an online database of books by Black authors. And I am so excited to be here. So thank you for having me.
Thank you very much, Amanda.
Hey everyone, I'm Amanda Ross, aka Amanda the Author on all of my socials and my YouTube. I'm the author of To a Stare with Love, To a Stare with Love and To Hearts in Desperation, which they're two of the three of my Witchkind series, which is a new adult contemporary fantasy series, which follows a witch and vampire feud and a witch fighting for freedom for his people. I mentioned I'm also an author tuber. I'm also one third of Lit Bitches, which is a bi monthly show that I do with Katrina and another author. I'm also a podcaster and just a girl about California town. So I'm really happy to be here.
Yes. Yeah. That's good. Go on, Tina, your turn.
Hi everyone, I am Katrina and Lewis. I am a fantasy romance author. I love all things swoon-worthy and badass. I have this lovely book available now, Heavy is the Head, Love and War. I'm on Amazon. I also have Love Bites on Wattpad. You can read it for free. It is a paranormal fantasy romance thing. It's really fun, so you should go check it out. Yeah, I am 2/3 of Lit Bitches, thanks to Amanda. And I'm wearing my novel shirt by author Montrez. She is a contemporary fantasy author. So yeah, shout out to my girl Montrez. And yeah,
Hey, ladies.
I am also happy to be here.
Loving it. You next, Aya.
And I'm just excited to be here in general. I am not an author. I am a book nerd. I don't know if people don't really use book nerd anymore, but I am a glorified book nerd. I have a podcast, the Isles Fantasy Podcast, where I review books. I also launched my business, Nubian Dragon Chest, which is a book box that you basically get Black fantasy books in. And hopefully all three of these I say all three because Charlie's already been in it, but hopefully the other three will also be featured in my book box.
Love it, love it, love it. Thank you so much for that. As you guys already know, I am Charli Author. Obviously, if you're here, you're familiar with me and the podcast and writing and book reviews that I get up to primarily on my IG. As you can see here, that thing is really messing everyone up. As you can see here, this is my latest release, Wolves of Duty, which is going to be out March 2nd, which is my first primarily Black casted book, which I am just really excited about. Everyone's just excited, aren't we? Exactly, which I'm just so excited about and can't wait for you guys to get into when you can. But we'll get to that stuff and all our promos later. Okay. So, as we can see from the title, this is talking Black fiction, okay? And when we say Black fiction, we're not going to try and keep it too narrow because obviously our Blackness and the world of Blackness and the majesty and excellence of Blackness is not just a really narrow path, okay? But to encompass all of that, that is the word we're going to use, okay? Or the phrase we're going to use. Not last year, we're 2 years now. So maybe 2020, I think we can all agree that there was a large influx of what's the word, interest in Black writing. Okay, publishers, it was the in thing, darling. Everybody wanted somebody Black on the roster, but what the problem was that said artists, writers, or whatever weren't necessarily perpetuating or putting out the kind of stories that we wanted to read constantly. Okay, we were missing in the fantasy spectrum, we were missing in the romance, we were missing in the thriller, we were missing in the mystery, etc. And there was still this constant push of less struggle narrative. We are going to come back to that a bit later. Okay, so why I wanted to have this discussion, and I promise I will stop talking in 2 seconds, is to get a perspective about how we feel about constantly being rammed down our throats as Black creatives, and what is possibly obviously just other people are just seeing of us, which is just the struggle. I'm tired of reading the struggle, right? So first broad question, and we'll start the other way around. So we'll start from IO and go back that way. What do you think or feel about the state of Black fiction right now?
Right now,
Yeah.
I would say right now I would say it was in a better space than it was maybe 5 years ago. You know, right now we have a plethora of authors that are writing, not just because when you say fiction is so broad, it can mean anything. And I'm going to talk within my kind of, I guess, what I like, my genre that I like. In terms of fantasy, you know, we've never had so much Black fantasy before. It makes my heart so swollen I can't breathe sometimes. You know, it does. Like sometimes I'm looking at my bookshelf and I'm just like, oh my god, like where am I gonna put all these books? But you know, and I think it's nice that we're moving away from those narratives. I think when you do read a lot of Black fiction, it is, like Charli says, it is the struggle love. It's not just struggle love, it's the trauma, you know. And I understand the need to tell the story of trauma, but it's not every day. We don't need trauma every day. So I think it's so mind-boggling. I mean, I'm not going to mention the name of the book because I've been offered to go and meet the author. I'm not going to say it. No, I can't say it just yet. Let me say it after I've been to the meet and greet. Yeah. So I've been. Someone mentioned the book. She's like, oh, it's the best book that she's read. It's like it's the beloved of our time. And I went, oh, I didn't really like Beloved, but oh, you know. And she's like, you're going to love it. And I was like, all right, okay, all right, yeah, send it to me. I haven't read it yet, but I'm like, all right, cool. I'll read it before we do the meet and greet. But I just thought, oh, man, come on, not another one. Like, why are we not making something more exciting? I don't know.
No, I get that. No, I definitely get that. Obviously, I know the reasons why you're not going to say the book now. But just so you know, everybody's up for grabs. Everyone can get this smoke.
No, do you know what? Don't worry. I've got books ready for the smoke. I have authors and titles that I've got lined up to start firing shots at them. But this one, I'm gonna hold it first.
Right,
shots fired.
All right, cool. We'll get to that. We'll get to that saucy portion. How about you, Katrina? How are you thinking and feeling about the state of fiction now?
Yeah, no, I think we are in a much better place. I want to say I would like to see more. Even though I love my self-published group, of course, but I don't feel like there's enough traditionally published Black fantasy stories. Like we know about the big ones, like the N.K. Jemisin's and the Tomi Adeyemi's, but it's like, who else? You know, who else we got out there? So I feel like there's still more work to do. And then the struggle part, you know, the narrative of the Black struggle and the Black experience, dating, you know, way back to 400 years ago, starting at slavery, or if you want to even go further back with, you know, different things like that. The narratives are important. We get that, but we're more than just struggle. We're more than just slavery. We're more than just, you know, living in the hood or something like that. Even though there's nothing wrong with those things. Those things are absolutely okay. Those things are excellent, just as well as Black fantasy and living as kings and queens. Like, we want to tell all those stories. We want to make sure that we're supporting those stories that traditionally published houses kind of see those stories, put some respect on our names. Like, you know, there's more than just, you know, the big 2 or 3, you know, authors who could, who I feel like people have given the pass to like tell, you know, Black fantasy stories. look at us.
Yeah.
But, so yeah, no, I feel like we're in a better space, but I feel like there's a little bit more work to do.
Most definitely. Before we move on, because this is for Amanda, who is next. We're talking about this push of the struggle narrative, and it's interesting for me to get your answer next, because obviously with To Astera with Love and To Alaris in Desperation, which I have read both of, which are wonderful, and that's not just because I know you. They really touch me here.
Yeah.
Yours does actually have a quote unquote struggle-esque narrative, but you've meshed it wonderfully with the witches and the the fantasy element. So for me, that speaking about this with you is like, okay, cool. How did you feel about making that kind of, as I said, mesh, that mend together both struggle but fantasy? It's like, did you feel you needed to do it that way, or was it, you just decided to do it that way, if that makes sense?
Well, thank you I'm glad you like the books. Thank you. Yeah, I wanted to present kind of an allegory, if you will, and talk about Black struggle, but I also wanted my stories to be more than about the struggle. I think that that's one of the things that gets me, and I think we can all agree of, if we're going to see this struggle or some aspect of Black people being impacted in a story because of their race, I want to see more than just that. I don't want my character that to be who the character is. The characters need to be more well-rounded. They need to experience joy and love and have moments with their friends. And I wanted my characters to be magical because I wanted to be able to say, Black people are magical. And in this book, literally, they have magic, and we can do the things that you maybe underestimate us for. Yeah. And I especially wanted to have a Black male witch as the main character, because I also wanted, Black men reading this to see themselves in that. And in terms of the larger question of, the state of Black fiction, I agree with what everybody said so far. Is I think we're in a better position. I think that one thing that kind of I would like to see less of is the Black struggle in predominantly white spaces, because I just feel like that's something that we have all experienced. We all maybe have some kind of trauma, maybe big or small, from being in those spaces. And so I think I would like to see less of that, even also in a fantasy space. Where you have this main character, she's Black, she's surrounded by a cast of white people, and she's struggling to fit into those spaces. My books are predominantly Black cast. There's a white character, there's a Latina character, but all the other main characters are Black. And so I want to see, yes, I like books where there's an integration, but I also want to see, like, my character isn't struggling to fit into white spaces, because we don't have to do that.
Right.
No, definitely agree. Thank you so much, obviously, for sharing that, because that is obviously a big one. It's like we have to, loosely said, it seems as though we have to mold our writing and our reading, etc., into a mold for it to be accepted.
Right.
I was in Waterstones just the other day, and there was a wonderful cover with a beautiful Black girl on the front of it. So obviously, beeline for it. I was like, "What's this?" Picked it up, turned it over, and I can't remember her name exactly, began with A or something. But the first line was, "Anna was a slave." I kid you not. I was so angry, and I was just like, "What are we still?" I just put it down and walked away. I couldn't be asked. So, as I said, it's one part of the fight to be getting traditionally published, but it's up to these writers who need to understand what they're being published for, because it feels very, I'm sorry to say, it feels very coonery. Do you know what I mean? It's like, I've got the holy grail of the deal, but what the fuck are you signing away?
Right.
What are you, I'm going to write what you want me to look like. I'm going to write what you want me to do for the sake of some cash. Girl, no, let's not do this. So, sorry. Chelsea has been obviously waiting so patiently. How do you feel, again, what do you feel about the state of Black fiction right now, and obviously struggle narrative?
Yeesh, that's heavy. Okay. I agree. I agree with what everyone else says that like we have definitely made progress and there's more. And kind of like Ao said, it's like I feel very full knowing that there are so many more books out there, especially in the young adult space, because I feel like most of the Black fantasy that has come to us has come in the genre of young adult. And I'm glad to see it because it's just like, man, I wish I had been able to see Black girls on covers when I was, 13, 14, 15 looking for books. So I think we've made progress, but I feel like there's still so much further to go because of everything that everyone's already mentioned. Like there is so much emphasis on trauma, but also just the Black girl being the token character, even when she's the main character of the story. And kind of like you said, Charlie, it feels like, these stories are being presented like, oh, you finally get a Black girl. You should be ecstatic. You should be happy. You should just be thrilled that you even got a book. And it's like, this is for you. And then you read it and it's just like, this clearly was not for me because you're just taking her struggle and putting it in white spaces and making her have to be magical and overcome not only the magical situations that you put her in, but the regular everyday microaggressions that she has to deal with. And it's just like, that's not fun. And I don't understand where the totality of it is and why it's presented as this is all you're going to get, especially when we are lacking books with predominantly Black class. I'm not even saying all Black casts. I'm just saying predominantly Black, like let her have a Black friend, a Black love interest, Black parents, like she's just, and I say she because usually young adult is a female character. I haven't read a lot of fantasy with male leads outside of Amanda's books. And it's just kind of like, let them be great and amazing and fully Black and not just like this little itty bitty piece where they have to take their Blackness into another space. And it just sometimes feels like the books are not written for us, but they're written to appease us while still writing for a white gaze. And there's just so much further to go in this genre. And it's crazy because I see us doing it in indie publishing and self-publishing, but it's just like traditional publishing is like there's no market for it. And I'm just like, clearly we are not looking at the same market that you are.
Right. No, I love that. It's, as I said, it's not written for us, it's to appease us. I think that is just really wonderful. I just want to soundbite that and put it somewhere because it does feel as though, like I said, this person's traditional, so it means you've made it. And it's like, as in one person suddenly speaks for all of us. And it's just like, that's entirely not the case. As obviously I've been listening to you guys making notes and stuff, raise hands who's read Legendborn.
I feel like it's everyone. No,
you haven't?
No, I haven't read it.
I feel like you all just said Legendborn though. Not to be rude. It just sounded like you were all talking about Legendborn. Oh my god.
When I said that, I was like referring to Legendborn partially also. So I haven't read it, but Charlie, I listened to your podcast when you were talking about Legendborn, and I have had other people mention Legendborn and that being a problem, and it made me not even want to pick up the book, despite how good everybody else said it was.
Go on, Chelsea. Sorry, go on.
Why do I want to be there?
Can we discuss the fact that none of us raised our hands and we all had the same observations and it was just like we all just assumed it was the same book, and all three of us who have never read it were like thinking about other books where this is the same case.
See, that is wonderful, and that is just obviously the power of reading, not reading, reviews, what you're hearing about people, because 100% everything you said about what was being done wrong was that book. I'm sorry. There were some bits that were not very well done. I enjoyed it in terms of the Arthurian legend mix.
Right.
Yeah, that I loved. Yeah, I'm a big King Arthur fan, so that bit I liked.
Exactly.
Yeah.
The fantasy part was doing it in terms of the swords, and all the kids had like an ancestor who was a knight of the round table and all these things. It was fucking cool. Like, it was nice. But the addition to this girl literally being the only Black in the village and literally being treated that way the entire time in big 2020 or big 21, and then you're still sitting there being in love with both of these white boys, and I'm like, let me slow down.
First of all,
mad at me. It's nothing to do with them being white. I love me a bit of white man. Like, it's not a problem. What the issue was here was
Okay,
that
wait.
it
wait,
was. Yeah, go on. Sorry, it was too much.
Wait.
I was so angry.
Okay.
Yeah.
So part of the reason I didn't read Legendborn is because I'm one of those people I can't read hype books while they're hype because I don't believe nobody. Okay.
Yeah.
I just need to be able to form my own opinion. But I knew that it was based in Chapel Hill, and I'm from North Carolina. I've been to Chapel Hill several times. So I understood the type of area that she was in.
Uh-huh.
But when you said, and I figured she was going to have a white love interest, but when you said 2 white love interests, and she's the only black girl, and she's disrespected massively,
Wow.
where was the joy supposed to come in?
I
Yeah.
have no idea, because then the actual black part of the narrative was literal slavery. Like
it was. I think like the best part of the book, I think it's part 3. Is it part 3? It might be part 4, because it's split up into parts. And then you're kind of slugging through this bit through the book, and then you get to the bit with the black magic, the black ancestry, and you find out like why she's got this roots and whatnot. I mean, but then it's still rooted in trauma because her ancestor was raped by King Arthur's ancestor. So there was, I don't know why I'm stuttering, but there was so many things in between. But then for me, that was the best bit about the book, because I was like, oh, black magic, yay, this, that, and the other. But everyone's face is like, what the fuck? But literally, like, the black magic, when it came into it, because up until then, there was no black magic in it, apart from this black girl. And I didn't realize that they were all white until I was like, wait, hold on.
Yeah.
Like certain microaggressions, I was like, I've experienced this in my workplaces. So what? Wait, hold on, wait, what? And then that's when I realized. And then I thought she was mixed race as well, because I thought, oh, you know, the big curly afro, but she's not mixed. A lot of it was a bit of a mindfuck, but
it was.
Yeah. Sorry.
We've gone off on a bit of
I
a
couldn't
tangent,
be
but-
more turned off.
No, and that's what I mean. And the thing is, I'm quite interested. I know we've just mentioned the reasons why obviously we didn't read it. You know, Amanda got turned off, and you know, Katrina, and you know, all that kind of thing. But I'm quite interested because it's such and forgive me if this sounds wrong, but it's such an American book. Mm-hmm. I would have thought you guys would have read it. So it's really interesting for me and Io, obviously being the British ones, to have read this kind of college campus, you know, southern setting, and that's what we're taking from it. Because as much as we watch all the TV shows and we watch all the movies and we watch all the everything, so we have a very narrow view of what America is like, right? And as I'm sure you do about Britain, like it's never the same way where you live to what you see. But this entire book for me was the biggest Southern American stereotype that I'd ever come across. She was just this one black girl, but even though she was fully black, she's meant to be fully black, but she had all the appearances and quote unquote positives of being a mixed race girl, i.e. the big curly hair that was acceptable by the white people. She wasn't particularly too dark, so she was light enough to be in their space. There were all of these things, but she was still treated like dirt, essentially. And it was just really everything about the book was
so you know why I'm laughing? Because you said she was treated like dirt, and I just remembered, is it Tandy Newton? And she was like, I was a black girl in England. And it was like, no, love, you're still fair skin. I'm so sorry. Just a random thought.
What were you
I
going
will
to say,
say
Sorry.
Like living in the South, and like I said, haven't been to Chapel Hill. Like I toured it when I was in high school as one of the colleges nearby. Would not go because I haven't read the book, but that feeling of, even if you have those acceptable traits, even if you're light skinned, even if you have curly hair, even if you speak properly, you are still the black girl. So yeah, that was probably accurate. It's just for me, how do I put this?
No, it was problematic for me because, as I said, we're repeating it now, but it just wasn't. It was a problem because it was wonderful in terms of the Arthurian legend. That was different. We've not had that before, and it was nice that she was the chosen one, as we all we do the chosen one trope, etc. But as soon as it just went completely left, and all of her magic and specialness came from, as I said, trauma, slavery, rape, etc. It discredited everything else that came after it. And it was just like, the front cover is wonderful and she's got all magic coming out of her hands and all of this thing. So I'm thinking, I'm going to open up this book and get some black girl magic, literally. and that didn't really happen. It
They
went
gave magical Negro trope and
it
stuff.
did.
Yeah.
Well, it did, and I was so angry. I was absolutely so angry.
And that goes back to, I don't want to cut anybody off. That goes back to what we were talking about, like even a fantasy book, but it's for the white gaze. Like the magical Negro is not usually stories that we want to see. That's for the white gaze.
No, it is. It is.
Absolutely.
So,
And
sorry. Do you go on?
no, I had a question because I like I said, I bought the book and I read like the first chapter, the first 2 chapters of it.
Yeah.
But one of the things that kind of gets me about these books that I've kind of realized they all have in common is, you know, the parental unit is usually broken, or one of the parents is dead, and usually the mother in these stories. And I was just wondering, why do you guys like think that is like I'm just curious about that, because it's just like, why is it that she has to be magical and she doesn't have her mother, and the only thing that makes her special comes from trauma, and so she therefore has to be magical? Because that's the other thing that kills me about these books.
Yeah, no, I think I'm going to be devil's advocate on this one, because I do think that the special orphan trope isn't specific to race. Do you get what I mean? Like, you know, Aladdin is the street rat and doesn't have any parents. Jasmine only has one parent. Ariel only has one parent, etc., etc. And in terms of their magic, you know, erupting or stemming from a traumatic event or a traumatic reason, that isn't particularly new in terms of fantasy tropes. Do you get what I mean?
Fair.
You know, they were stolen at birth and lost their, you know, identity and all this kind of stuff. So I don't think that is race specific at all. I think where I don't like the kind of parental bit that, you know, you might be stemming towards is the classic one when there's no dad. And, you know, there's no dad in the household, or the household isn't particularly happy, or another one, which isn't a completely bad thing, but has anybody read Excuse Me While I Ugly Cry?
Yeah, I read that one.
Yeah, can't wait to get to that.
I really love that one. But even though she's got 2 great parents, the mum is a bit, I'm a high-flying lawyer, so now I'm better than the other black people around me. So even though she's from a respected, well-to-do black parental, you know, setup, there is still something that sets them apart from the other blacks. Like, we don't deal with the lower blacks because we got money now, you know, we're better than you, kind of thing. So just to wrap that up, I don't think the special orphan is a race thing, but the having a loving, positive family black unit is rare as fuck.
And I guess
it never happens.
That's the thing that I'm like, why don't we ever get to see like people have loving families? Because even though it's not unusual, it's unusual for them to be black and have a parental unit.
Yeah. You know what? It's kind of sad because obviously people jump in if we're going on one. It's kind of sad because in Wolves of Duty, for example, Aspen, my main character, she does come from what is considered a perfect household. You know, she has a mom and a dad and you know, a little sister, and they're a close little unit, and they've got money and they rich as fuck, and you know, all this kind of stuff. But the parents' marriage is strained, and I didn't consciously make that happen. It was just part of the story. So yeah, in that instance, I'm a bit of the problem here.
I mean, I say that knowing that all the characters in my book, they don't have parents, but they're assassins and they're like abused by the crown. That's literally their backstory.
I just want to say, just to bring that up though, I wouldn't say that that's a problem per se, because we're still people. Like, relationships are complicated. We can have complicated relationships between parents, between siblings, between, like, heavy is the head, like the siblings, they go at it. Like, that's just like
they do.
I think that's more of a people thing, but
where
it becomes like an issue is where like authors tread the line of getting the stereotypes, like the missing father, or where is he, or you know, the struggling black mother, and she pregnant, and you know, stuff like that, where we fall into like, you know, harmful stereotypes. But there's not wrong with having a strained relationship between 2 black characters. There's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah. What about you, Amanda? Sorry, Chelsea, I was just going to say, Amanda hasn't spoken for a bit, but obviously you've got 2 brothers who just have a dad. They've just been raised by their dad because their mother's not about. for reasons I'm still trying to work out, but we know why the mum is not there. So excited. But yeah, was that a conscious, obviously, sorry, let me repeat that. From what we think is happening, obviously, for those that have read it, we know why the mum's not around, right? Like, we're all here. Who took the mum away? Right, cool. So obviously that was more of a plot thing for you, more than a kind of societal setup, if that makes sense. Is that right?
Yeah, and I also wanted to show, so having lost one parent myself, I also wanted part of Mercury's journey to be about his grief. And then, he loses another member of his family early on in the book. And so I also, again, wanted to work out my own grief and feelings of having lost a parent, lost a grandmother who was close to, and all of that. I also wanted to I wanted really to show Mercury's relationship with his father and show how loving and supportive and wonderful it is.
Yeah.
Because, I don't think we really see that where, we have the Black father, but then in a lot of fantasy, like Chelsea mentioned, it's a female main character. And so I wanted to show a son and a father relationship, how loving and supportive it can be. And also from a standpoint of Mercury's father being bisexual, I wanted to also show Mercury as an ally and how supportive he is of his father and his father's sexuality and his friend's sexuality and all of that, and not center him in his father's narrative, but just to show that Black men can be supportive of each other and hug each other and cry on each other's shoulder and be sensitive and also be stern with each other, because I think that we're kind of missing that in these narratives and then also in fantasy at large.
Yeah, no, definitely. I was a fan of that. Mercury being male, Mercury being Black, Mercury having a very attentive father. It was just all wonderful. So I really do appreciate that in your writing. If no one has anything more on that one, I'm going to just kind of segue onto the next question kind of thing. We've kind of touched on it with the Legendborn thing. So quickly get the negative out the way, but most of the time that's the most fun. What are some examples of Black fiction that we are not feeling? Okay, we're going to start with Chelsea. We'll go Chelsea and then we'll go Io, and that way, yeah, we'll go round. But some examples that are just like, nah, babes, don't do that.
Okay, so I've talked about this book lives rent free in my head, and I have 2 examples, but I'm going to leave one of them because I think Amanda knows the other one. Okay. But as much as I love her, because I got to interview her on my channel, she's an amazing person and an amazing author. Did not like A Song Below Water by Bethany C. Morrow. I don't know if you guys
I've not read it yet.
I've not read it
either.
Do tell. Give me the juice.
So, like I said, I love Bethany, but and this could be a part of the marketing because this was big 2020 and everything was just like Black girl magic, Black girl magic, Black girl on the cover. And her cover has 2 Black girls on it, and it was pushed as Black fantasy with mermaids, Black girls with mermaids, right? Yeah, got the book. There are no mermaids involved. Yeah, there's not a single mermaid, Black or otherwise.
I'm very upset by this.
Yeah, what?
Yeah. Also, it is not high fantasy. It is not a lot of fantasy. It's actually a very much contemporary book with little sprinkles of fantasy. It's like if you get a cupcake and you put sprinkles on top, the sprinkles are the fantasy. It is not the meat of the book.
Okay.
And I didn't care for it because I didn't like the dynamic of the family. The main character has two parents. Both of them are neglectful and abusive, and like emotionally abusive. She also, in turn, is abusive to her adoptive sister, and a lot of the antagonist for the most of the book, and I say the antagonist because if you watch the interview with Bethany, she's very clear about the perceived antagonist not being the actual antagonist, but the perceived antagonist, I'll say, is the darkest character in the book, and there are only 3 Black girls in the entire book, and they don't like each other.
Of course they don't. So now we've got like female hate, we've got girl and girl hate, then
Black girl hate,
then we've got lack of yeah, okay, continue.
And the social commentary is on point, but it was supposed to be a fantasy, and then there is this aspect of the Black girls not loving themselves. There's this aspect of the Black girls hiding their magical abilities for most of the book. There is this concept of introducing other fictional magical creatures that you have no reference of, and then changing it, and it being kind of confusing towards the end. It's not a bad book. Like, I'm really not trying to trash the book. It was just one of those things. It was one of those
disclaimer.
I did not care for it as a fantasy, and I feel like the book would have been a lot better without that aspect of fantasy. If it was just a social commentary book. There is mention of police brutality. There is the Black girl simping over the one white kid. The two Black girls who don't like each other simping over the same white boy. And
real legend born here.
There's a little stalking involved.
What is this story?
I thought it was about mermaid, a song below water.
I will tell you that the main characters at no point actually get in water.
Stop this.
No.
I'm so offended. Like, I'm looking at this book now and I just want to burn it.
So I'm taking this off my TBR because I was I'm here for this. The cover's everything, and now I don't care.
Beautiful.
No, that's insane. I think that is another big thing as well. As you said, the marketing. Everybody looked at this thing thinking it was mermaids. So the fact that it's not, I mean, the other stuff could have been well done, whatever, but now because we thought it was this and now it's not, it's immediately set us up to be negative towards it. And if you want to think quite deeply, that could then mosey on to what's the word? So because we didn't expect this, we now dislike it. We give it a 2 on Goodreads, and now that's the reason why.
2 on Goodreads.
No, do you know what I mean? As in, it's almost like a calculated step. Like, when they get through this, when they don't get this, they'll be disappointed, which means they won't like the book, which means she won't get published again. It feels like, setting the stones to set us up for failure. You get what I mean? And which is horrific. But before I lose my train of thought, I'm going to go that way. So my turn now. You mentioned the Black girls not liking each other and this kind of self-hate and stuff like that. My candidate for examples of Black fiction not done well, The Other Black Girl.
Oh my God, I hate that book. Lord have mercy. Wait, let me breathe in and breathe back out again.
Yes, we got from Io.
Sorry, let me shut up. Go ahead.
It seems like everybody hates this book, honestly.
Listen, The Other Black Girl, okay? Again, it's the disappointment, okay? I read the cover. It was, what was it? Devil Wears Prada meets Get Out, okay? Wonderful tagline. This is what we're on. This is, it might be a bit of me. And, we predominantly really love fantasy. So it was nice for me to see a book that I wanted to read that wasn't, of that caliber kind of thing. So without telling, but I'm going to have to tell, okay? This girl, she works at a publishing house. She is upset that she's the only Black girl. But then as soon as another Black girl comes into her setting, she dislikes her. Wow. She doesn't think she dislikes her for that reason, but she does. It's like her whole entire identity was being the only Black one and complaining about being the only Black one. But then as soon as someone comes in and is a little bit more Blacker than her, she's really upset about it. So she doesn't know whether she should be her friend or her enemy. They have this weird mesh of frenemy-ness. It's bizarre. And then by the end of it, I'm sorry, I am telling the ending. By the end of it, it turns out that they're brainwashed into infiltrating white spaces and kicking the two black people out by like poisoned hair grease. Or
what?
Yeah. It was poison. It was like basically they like say we all worked in the office and I didn't really like you for. I would give you some hair cream and be like, oh, do you know what? I'm using this. My locks are really nice and long and you lot want your hair to grow. use this, and then you guys will start acting, like feeling it was so fucking bizarre. I don't know how to explain it. Like they were putting this hair cream in their hair, and then they were like being mind controlled.
Yes, they were being mind controlled by the establishment. So so for example, before the hair cream, we'd be having this conversation about black fiction. 1 second. We'd be having this conversation about black fiction, and the minute I start greasing my scalp with this shit, suddenly I'm like, no, the white man is just great, they're perfect, blah, 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 blah. They were brainwashing them with hair grease.
Yeah.
Hair grease. A black woman wrote this and gave this to us. Wow. Go on, Chelsea.
And the cover, you know, like I gave the book away, by the way, because I got it for free, but I gave it away. We had the cover, and it had, you know, that African hair comb.
Hair comb in it.
I thought, oh yes, you know, let's because I'm like, you know, I'm here for it. And then I was like, what did I just read?
I am appalled.
So first of all, what I don't understand, the entire premise is broken in my mind, because if I don't like you, why am I taking hair grease from you? Hair cream, hair products. And why am I
not
taking anything that's been open from you?
Like,
but then also, we work at a publishing company, bro. Why are you worried about my hair? What?
Yeah, no, the thing is, oh gosh, why this was my example, it's so hard to explain. But the initial girl, so the first girl, even though she's black, she has a white boyfriend. She straightens her hair. You know, it's very Michelle Obama. She
took hair grease.
She has it, but it's like, and I don't mean that to be a bad thing, but she doesn't feel as black as she thinks she should be. Yeah, like she has manipulated herself to be accepted. So she straightens her hair. She has a white partner. She's quite docile. She just keeps to herself because she's the only black one, so she doesn't want to be the aggressor. You know, all of those stereotypes, right? So then a black girl that starts, she has dreads. The black girl that starts, she has bangles. She's unapologetically black. Mm-hmm. So she both admires her and hates her at the same time, because she's like, how are you coming and being black? But when I do it, I don't get any, recognition for it. So she both wants to be her friend, which is how she kind of gets close enough to her to have the hair grease. But then she both dislikes her as well, because she feels like you're imposing on my space. So in that situation, I get it. But it's just horrific because, as I said, it perpetuates the idea of two black women cannot be in the same space, as in there is only one level for each of us. And if either one of us is going to make it or one of us isn't, that's disgusting. Right. And then there's just the whole idea of what it means to be black. Just because I'm sitting here in a blonde wig doesn't make me any less black than Io, who has dreads, okay? And it's that part of it really, really angered me, other than the just horrific nature of mind-numbing hair grease, which was fucking ridiculous. That idea that two black women cannot be in the same space and share it and help each other to succeed, that was damning. And I think it was disgusting of the woman to have allowed herself to write or to have pitched to be written. And I think I thought it was horrific. I thought it was absolutely horrific, guys. It's just not. No. Do not read it.
Do you know what? I actually forgot about that one. I had a different book in mind. I forgot about the other black girl. I can't believe it. You know what? Because so there's a book that we read. I think I've spoken to Charli about this before. It's called Killing Johnny Fry. I don't know if anybody's read it. It's called Killing Johnny Fry by, let me quickly block his name. Yeah. Sorry guys, I've got two screens as well. That's why I'm looking at the other side. Killing Johnny Fry by Walter Mosley.
Oh, Walter Mosley. Okay,
I know Walter Mosley.
Yeah,
it's a terrible book.
Oh no!
So it was pitched to us as not fantasy fiction, but it was erotica. You know, and we like a little bit of and a little bit of smutty. You know, we like a little. No, we do. We like a bit of and fling somebody over the balcony or something. You know, we like all that kind of stuff. So I'm like, yeah, I'm getting ready to read this book. I'm like, woo, all right, let's get hot and heated. I've never been so. I felt raped in this book, and I'm so sorry, people, because that's a trigger. I should have said trigger warning. But I read this book, and I was like, started looking at things. I'm never doing that. I'm never doing that. Nope. Like I don't even know where to start with this book, and it was like a really bad porn movie written into a book.
Oh,
But and I feel like the main character is black, the guy, and then his girlfriend is cheating on him with somebody else, and then there's like some Russian girls that get involved. It's all over the place. Like when I say all over the place, I mean it's terrible. Like,
oh god,
I don't know what else I don't know what to compare it to.
I'm gonna go with you just don't like it. Okay, is that what we're doing?
Yeah. I mean, I think if we're talking about, creating, I think what I didn't like about it was, and I feel like the main character is black, but I might be wrong. But the thing that really irked me about it was this whole the black guy with the big dick syndrome or whatever it's called. But it felt like the whole, he's a black guy, he's been cuckolded, and then he just goes down a really weird spiral of, I don't know what it was, but it was interesting. I mean, I wouldn't recommend it to anyone, but it was interesting.
No, I get that. So Read Love Listen says, I'm starting to feel like some of these authors use their book as therapy, and I'm not trying to be mean, but when I see their responses online or their significant other, it all makes sense. I do love it. No, you know what, we'll go to I'm going to make a note of talking about black love in books, so make me not forget that, because I do have an issue. But sorry, before we move on to Katrina and the other way, I do have an issue with the lack of, and what I am finding in fantasy, correct me if I'm wrong, even when there's a black man, he's gay.
No,
he's always gay.
I haven't.
Or just, doesn't have a relationship. Like, there's no real positive, sexy black man.
Are we talking about in terms of all fantasy and not just within black authors?
Yeah, just general all fantasy. As I said, we'll get to that before we digress.
Yeah, you're right. Sorry.
Yeah, exactly. I don't want to.
Yeah.
But sorry. So Katrina, Amanda, examples of Katrina first. Examples of black fiction not doing it too well for you. Do you have any?
So I'm at a place in my life, y'all, where I do not, like, if I'm not feeling it by like chapter 3, I close it. So the only example I have, and I can't even remember the name of this book. It wasn't erotica, but it was just so bad. Like, I want to say it was the two main characters were black, but she was like, she saw him in the bar, but they were like stereotypes. They didn't feel like people. She's like, oh, Mr. Chocolate walked down and da-da-da. I was like, and then she was calling him Mr. Chocolate to his face. I was like, what's going on? This don't feel real. Like, this is just not it.
Yeah.
I closed it. It was not good.
No.
And I don't even remember. I was just like,
was it one of those, like, what's the books you shared? Like the Quan something?
No. So that was my other example. Lord have mercy, Quan Mills. I don't know if they're real, but they are horrible. Like the one I shared in the group chat was Yoho Coochie Stank or something like that. He has like, I slept with my granddad. No, I slept with my husband's grandfather, pregnant by my boyfriend's like secret lover. Like it's like all like these like stereotypical kind of like
where does
black
this
struggle narrative, struggle black is so bad.
No. I hate
what makes me angry is that I feel like that's how sometimes black fiction gets looked at as, like, it's almost like a joke, like it's supposed to be funny, or like when people ask me sometimes, like, oh, you're a writer, do you tell urban fantasy, or like, are you an urban writer? And I'm like, I tell fantasy. I'm not an urban writer. No.
No, but you know what? That is, I'm starting to respect that is in fact a genre, because even online, when I've kind of like submitted to, black online things or, various different places and stuff like that, I see the difference in what I'm writing to what other things are nominated as well. And it is a lot of, the danger of Daquan or something. Right. And there's just some like hood black guy on the front ripping abs, and like there's nothing wrong with it, but I do look and I think, that's not what I'm here for, so I'm gonna go this way, because there is a market for it. So it is a bit different, but yeah, there's some stuff on that, like the the hood, insert N word here.
Again, if you like it, I love it. Cool, but I'm not reading
It's not.
it.
It's not for me. What about you, Amanda?
Oof. Okay, so White Smoke by Tiffany D. Jackson, and I understand that this is a young adult horror. I love horror, and there's not a lot of horror written by Black authors that I've been able to find. So that's kind of an issue for me. I'm hoping that can change. But White Smoke. Okay, so so the conceit of this is that this family moves into this town that's really broken down, it's suffering, and the residents that are there do not like this family. Now it is a blended family. The mom, the main character, and the brother, they're Black, and the mom is married to a white man, and he has a daughter named Piper, and his daughter is white.
Okay.
So some of the issues are that this family is moving into this area in this program that's supposed to be like offering artists a chance to have a new life and start over, and kind of an artist in residence in this town. And they get this house that's been renovated, and the whole idea is that we're bringing these artists into this area that's impoverished. We're redoing these houses for these artists. I'm sure you can hear that the gentrification of it all is happening here.
Mm-hmm.
So it's basically a Black woman, because the mother is the one who got the grant. So the Black woman is essentially leading the charge of this gentrification thing, even though we're not supposed to see it as gentrification until kind of the end, but that's exactly what it is. And everybody in this family is looking at the residents there thinking, well, why are they upset with us moving in this house? Ugh. Yes. Part of it is the haunting, but the other part is the very real role that this family is playing in the gentrification of this area. Okay. The other issue is that the yes, basically there's no ghosts. I was here for ghosts. There's no ghosts.
No ghosts.
The daughter is supposed to be addicted to weed, and the whole time she's just thinking, oh, I'm craving a joint. I'm craving a this. I just want to take a puff. Oh, cannabis. Yeah. And it's giving very somebody who has never smoked weed. Yeah. And it's like, do some talk to people who actually engage in this life, because it's giving like you don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah. No, I hate that lack of research or yeah.
Right. And the other issue, the biggest issue I had was the whole thing of the father being white and the sister being, the stepsister being white did not need to happen. Mm-hmm. And it was aggravating because the sister was a little shit, as little sisters are. Yes. I know, because I am a little sister.
Me too.
But the father would always take Piper's side, to where it was almost like she was weaponizing her whiteness and her white tears against the Black family. Yeah. And the mom would not really push back against her husband. Mm-hmm. I expected to hear some like furniture moving type arguments with the mom and the husband behind closed doors, because I get maybe you don't want to have this conversation in front of the kids. Yeah. But she just
let it go.
There was no argument. She let it go, and by the end of the book, they were totally fine. There was no lingering, I'm upset with you because of this and seeing how this is going. And in the end, there were no ghosts. Well, what it was is that there were people living in the walls of this house and sleeping in the basement, that this family is moved in this house. They're told, don't go in the basement, it's locked. And they just accept it as, okay, girl, I'm not going to go in the basement, it's locked. And they're just walking around this house, and the main character's like, ooh, it smells weird. It smells musty in here. And it's like, you didn't investigate your basement? It smells musty in your bathroom, and you just didn't think... You're not going around smelling people's pits and shit because it's musty? What is happening?
Yeah, exactly.
I'm not going treating the marijuana like it was crack. Ooh, I'm craving a joint. That part.
What were you going to say, Chelsea, sorry?
I want to add, like, the part that got me as, like, having siblings, it's just like, why was no one hemming Piper up when the parents were not around? That was the part that I did not understand. and the mom taking the, like you said, the not having the argument parts. It's
Yeah.
just like, these are your kids, the ones you birthed, and
Yeah.
you letting this white man come into your house and disrespect them to the point where they want to leave, and
Right.
you're not saying nothing about it, and it's your house
Yeah.
alone.
Wow.
Your name is the only one on this deed.
Exactly. And the ending was so abrupt, and there is no sequel. I thought, you know, the ending happens,
Scandalous.
and then thinking, okay, there's going to be sequel. There is no sequel, and so
There are
it just
a lot of questions, no answers.
exactly,
Wow.
exactly,
Yeah,
and it
I
just
hate that. I hate that when a book just, it just leaves you really unfulfilled.
Mhm.
I'm feeling like that about a book at the moment. It's not a black book, but we read to escape and have fun and all these kind of things. So when you're going through it and you're just like, what is this shit? Like, it is a complete disappointment. That kind of moves on nicely to what a few of you guys are saying in the comments, which I'm going to share. 1 second, if I can press it. One that I think is bad is Witches Steeped in Gold. And I know Io didn't like this. Who has read this?
I haven't read it yet.
You haven't read it yet. So Witches Steeped in Gold by Shannon Smart. Shannon is British. So that was a good one for us in the sense of, yay, someone in the fantasy spectrum that's non-American. Let's do
Right.
this. That was one. And then there was also the added aspect for me of it being Jamaican inspired or Jamaican based kind of thing. So I was immediately excited because, I feel people that. So I was very excited. But while I didn't hate it, a lot of people did. Aya?
I didn't read it because of you. I can't lie.
You didn't read it because I didn't.
Nah, yeah, no. Do you know what? So like Charlotte. So I'm not West Indian. I'm African. But one thing I noticed very early on is that a lot of fantasy books were written by African authors, and we had loads of Orishas and whatever. And we rarely had any like West Indian things. So I was looking. I mean, I've read The Mermaid of Black Conch, which is by Malik Khofri, which is based like around like West Indian folklore. Really liked it. So Witches Steeped in Gold came out, and I was really excited for it. But my book didn't come for a very long time because it got lost in translation. And Charli read it and was like, I did, and I was like, okay, all right. Then I tried it, and I didn't like how it was written. So, and I feel like this was the issue I also had with Children of Blood and Bone Part 2. I didn't like that it was.
I didn't like that either.
I didn't like how some of the things she translated into English. So with Witches Steeped in Gold, it's written how it's not written like it's patois, but it's not written in patois. It's written written phonically, which makes it confusing because then you're reading it. And I guess for someone that has dyslexia, it's hard for me because when I'm reading, I'm like, I know what the word is, but I'm struggling to read it because you've written it in a completely different format than from what I'm used to seeing it in. So I struggled with it, but I will get there. But I've heard nothing but bad reviews, which is really heartbreaking for me.
No, it really was. It was a letdown in that sense that it was really hyped up to be this phenomenal thing that it just wasn't. Okay. And I think we're going back again to what we were saying about, it's marketed as this, and then when it's not that, we're disappointed. We don't give it the love it needs, and therefore they are validated in not giving us another one. It does really feel like this incessant kind of trap. Do you know what I mean? But the thing is, I think for me, and this is going to be not rude, but it is going to be quite a generalization. After having heard Shannon and seen Shannon, she's not Jamaican enough for the book. She just wasn't. She wasn't authentic enough for the book. And that's, as I said, that sounds terrible coming from one black girl to another, but essentially, it felt like she was writing something she didn't really know. It was textbook Jamaica, not Jamaica might love Jamaica, if that makes sense. Yes, Chelsea.
I want to add to that I saw on her Instagram at one point that she's Jamaican and that her parents or her grandparents are like she's very far removed from the Jamaican side of her family, and she wrote it to try to pay like homage, but that's not like the life that she lived. And I kind of wanted to add to what you said because I feel like, not being rude, but I feel like sometimes as Black people, especially Black women, we can be seen as like, oh, because you're Black, you can write in this genre because it is also a Black culture thing. And it's just like, there are different aspects of Black culture. And if you're not living in it, that's not your truth. And it's fully okay to be like, okay, I'm not gonna do that. Like me trying to write a Jamaican book, I'm not Jamaican. I don't have any Jamaican family. I've never been to it. I don't know anything about the ins and outs and depths of the culture outside of what I have read. So me trying to write a book and be authentically Jamaican would be like, that's not, I may be Black, but that's not my culture.
But that's not my culture.
Can I just jump in here quickly, just to I guess show a comparison or a different, whatever the word is, to this book would be Monique Joffrey's Mermaids of Black Conch, because she's of Trinidadian heritage, and she writes it in Trinidadian dialect. So if you don't understand Trinidadian dialect, that's your business. That's not her business. And when I tell you, I read this book, I loved it, and then I was like, I got this to as an audio book. Audio books are trash. We all know that. But like, I'm sorry they couldn't get the accent, but it's fine. You know, I couldn't do a Trinidadian accent because I'm not Trinidadian. But you know, like when you compare that to Which is Steeped in Gold, it wasn't hitting. It wasn't giving Jamaica. Like Charli said, it was, and I can't even. I feel like I can't say that because I'm not even of West Indian heritage. But it wasn't giving Jamaican. It's like me deciding I'm going to open up a Jamaican chicken shop.
Yeah.
And I'm serving them jollof rice and rice and stew. Like it makes no sense.
No, I do get that, and that was part of my frustration with it, because don't get me wrong, we do understand, like, I think we can all accept and understand that if you are going to go into the mainstream with a cultural book, and if it is fantasy, etc., there are going to be certain provisions you need to make, in the sense of if somebody of Japanese heritage, for example, just throws a bunch of Japanese words in there with no real explanation as to why they're in there, anyone is going to struggle with that, because these words are new. There's, you know, it's not to say that things you don't understand, you can't like. They're going to be difficult, but you need to insert them in a way that they become natural to the narrative, so that a non-Jamaican, a non-African, a non-Black, a non-whatever will be able to just learn this word in the spectrum of the book. Like, they don't need to understand, you know, on this huge level, but it was clear that she turned off the Blackness in order for it to be dulled down, and that was really frustrating for me. Sorry.
Can I just, because what you're saying, I get what you're saying, but in the same sense, I've forgotten his name. The guy that wrote Lord of the Rings, he didn't do that. He wrote a whole elven language. Yeah. It's not even real. Aragorn, Christopher Paolini, he has all his, like, I'm sorry, I just don't feel like you have to, I don't care whether it's Black fantasy or not Black fantasy. If you're writing something in a different language or whatever, leave it as it is. Don't change it. Yeah, no, and I get what you're saying in terms of like they have to dilute it down for, you know, the Western audience. But I think, you know, that I feel for me, and I'm not even an author, but I just feel like that's always something that's put on Black people. Like, oh, if you're gonna do something, make it more palatable, make it more distant for other people. If they don't understand it, they don't understand. That's their business. Sorry.
No, I do get that. It's one of those memes, isn't it? It's like, if I say, oh, sorry, Amanda. Sorry, I'll go to Amanda in a minute. It's you know, if you can't pronounce, you know, I'm not Nigerian, so I'm probably going to butcher this, but somebody can't pronounce, you know, Ayowale Adiobe kind of thing, but they can pronounce Daenerys Targaryen. What? You can pronounce, you know, Brokovich Abramovich, but you can't say a natural kind of thing. You know the ones. But sorry, go on, Amanda.
I think I think this all boils down to who your target audience is, because I think we all as authors know that you to a certain extent need to make your book to where it can be read by the masses, but you should have a target audience in mind when you're writing a book. My target audience, I write for Black people. So I'm not writing my book with the intent, like, I write for Black people first, everybody else second. And with this book I just recently wrote, In the House of Transcendence, it is for Black queer people first, everybody else second.
Yeah.
And so it's kind of like, if you were writing your book for a certain group of people, you're gonna put in the culture and the vibe and the the dialect and all of that for them specifically, and not then dull it down for everybody else. Because I think in this day and age, with the internet being free, if I don't know something, I can just Google it, and I can just ask, I can just figure it out. And I think that makes me like a book more, right? Like I speak Spanish a little bit, but if I was reading a book by by a Mexican author or Latinx author, and they were putting in words or a reference I didn't understand, I would Google it, and it would make me like it more, because then it forces me out of my box and my comfort zone to do the research to learn more about a culture. And then I can understand it. So I think it's just, who are you writing for? Are you writing for the white gays or are you writing for Black people?
No, I get that. I mean, I definitely agree, obviously, with what Io said in response to what I said, because what my issue with Shannon's is, for example, she changed the spelling of patois, as you said at the beginning. Like, there were, Jamaican words that she was using, but spelt them differently so people could digest them. And that was what was my problem. I'm not saying not to use patois, use it all, because that is what you're saying. But she literally spelt them phonetically so that someone could read them, and it was just like, well, that's not how it's spelled, or that's not how it's said, and that really kind of got on my nerves. But sorry, go on, Trina, and then we're going to move on to the next bit.
I'm glad you cleared that up, because I was going to say too, I get, like, it just boils down to what Amanda said, just making sure you do your research, because, like, for example, on Heavy is the Head, I am African American, I'm Black American, I'm not from the continent, I am removed this amount of times from being an enslaved African in the Americas to being on the continent. Now I'm here. So when it comes down to like trying to incorporate culture, sometimes it's a little bit harder for someone who was removed from, I guess, what am I trying to say, like, just being careful in the sense of, we don't want to get into like, oh, you're not Jamaican, so you can't tell that story if you're Black. Like,
yes, yeah, no,
you can research it. Like, I might be Jamaican. My people might have came across the boat from Jamaica and came here. Like, I don't know that.
Yeah,
that's not to say that I then can't tell a story steeped in Jamaican culture. As long as you do the research, I think you're in good shape. But I'm glad you cleared it up that she watered it down for almost like for the white gays. Like, you can pronounce Daenerys Targaryen, but you can't pronounce the patois words. So it's
that was my problem. It wasn't that I wanted her to dull it down in order to be accepted. It was just, why did you do it this way?
Right? Why?
That didn't.
But there's a way in which you integrate culture. So, and I'm going to throw balls of duty into this now, and it's not even a bad thing. It's one of the reasons why I loved it so much. It's because they're Black, they're everyday Black people like me and you, but then, and I think they're Black first, and then I don't know how to explain it. You don't see it. So like at one time they were eating breakfast and they were having plantain with ackee, and I was like, oh yeah, I would have that for breakfast. Someone died, they had a 9-night. It wasn't just a funeral. It was a night, like, you know what I'm saying? Like, there's different little things that you can throw in there. You don't have to be, Kunta Kente, Shaka Zulu 24/7. But no, I'm sorry, because I feel like no, but it's true that there's a mixture that you put into it. And I don't know if you guys have read Wolves of Duty yet, but it's one of those books, and I need to reread it because I read it ages ago, but I want to reread it before it launches. Yeah. But it's a thing where it's so mixed in that it's the subtleness that you need, that I like. And anyways.
It's part of the world. It's not like it doesn't feel like it's tacked on in the sense of thought about afterwards.
It feels authentic. Like, everything about it is authentic. It's not, oh yes, and now she's wearing a kente cloth because she's Black. You know what I'm saying? It's just
right.
No, I think that adds to the fact that, like, if you're going to do something, you just have to do it and expect the people who are going to appreciate it to appreciate it.
No, 100%. And I really appreciate getting that response, obviously, from both Katrina and Io, who were beta early readers of it, kind of thing, because I know I'm probably going to sound a bit hypocritical now, considering what I said about Shannon, but I'm pretty close to my Jamaican heritage, as in my mum wasn't born there, but she grew up there from very young. My grandmother was born there. My great-grandmother was born there. And I've gone every year. I would living there for, you know, just under a year kind of thing. So I do have a connection to Jamaica, but in that same breath, I know I'm not Jamaican, if that makes sense. And I didn't try to make them Jamaican. Part of my pitch was just that the world is Jamaican inspired, i.e. they do eat ackee and saltfish and jerk chicken and plantain for breakfast, and you know, cornmeal porridge and all those kind of things, and nine nights and rum punch, and you know, just the things I grew up with. But their culture as such, which is part of the I think what we're trying to do as writers and want to see as readers, is that the culture and the blackness isn't the focus of this. The focus is the story. The focus is the inciting incident, the murder, the love, the romance between black folk. That's it.
You're making me want to read it again.
It's like the page isn't for me to ram my blackness down your throat. It's for me to just exist in this magical space. And I don't understand why it always has to be this focus. She was, you know, dark as night and her skin was get it, she's beautiful. But after their initial description, so that you know what everybody looks like, it may be a good or a bad thing, but I don't think I ever describe them again. Do you know what I mean? As in, I've told you they're black and that's it. I don't need to keep reiterating how, you know, the sun glistened off her golden tan hide. Like, I don't give a shit. Like, you know what I mean? It's like, you know what they look like, do with that what you will, and let's move on. Do you know what I mean? I'm about the story. So let me just go through. Let's see. Margaret McGriff, who's also a writer, she says the black culture is so multifaceted. As an African, I couldn't speak to the Southern black experience as an example. That's the thing. You're not trying to particularly write a story about it. We're allowed to discuss and go into other spectrums because we're not trying to narrow each other.
Right, exactly.
But if you want to be authentic and, you know, real and truthful to who you are, you're going to start with what you know. And if you're going to write, about being Afro-Cuban, then I'm not going to tell you can't, because I'm not Afro-Cuban. So I'm assuming you know what you talk about. Like, I'm going to assume that, you know, if Amanda, for example, being from you've got mixed parents, like you've got a mixed heritage kind of thing. If she's writing that down in her books about having a white father and a black mother, and that was her experience growing up, I'm not going to tell her it wasn't. Like, it wasn't me. Like, do you know what I mean? So I really do like that. Read, love, listen. What's this one? I feel like the many trad published focuses on the white gaze. Very true. Montrez agreed with Katrina's comments, obviously, about being removed from the African diaspora. Exactly true. Elements from culture, dialogue, and cuisine are important. And Deja says Wolves of Duty did that very well. It wasn't so focused on black. They were just living their lives as black people in this world. And thank you so very, very much. The next one, I'm conscious of time now. We are having so much fun. The next one is example, because obviously we just rinsed people. Examples of black fiction done well. Let's try and do something positive, guys. What are some examples of like, this was blackity black and I was loving it, and they're just ticking their boxes?
All of us.
Yes, even my book. I don't have a book yet, but it's there.
No, I'm actually trying to think. As I said, the negative ish. Well, we shouldn't.
Can I go first with this one? Actually,
go. If you have one, go.
I do. I was going to say Rules of Duty, but I've already said that, and I feel like people are going to be like, "Oh, stop gushing over Charli! Like, you ain't a man, so stop gushing over her." But given by Nandi Taylor, like, and I know on not Spotify, what's that thing that people go on? Goodreads. I don't believe in Goodreads, but I know on Goodreads they didn't really give it a good rating, but I loved it.
About it.
So she came from a little village. So it's a black girl with dragons, and you know I love my dragons, as you can see. Oh, wrong side, dragon lady on this side. Love my dragons. A black girl with dragon. It's the typical. I don't know, fantasy trope. You know, she's left home she's going to save her dad because he's sick, so she's going to go to school. You know, she meets this dragon. She doesn't like him at first. It's like not enemies to lovers, just more irritation to lovers. So he bumped into her and was like, "Oh my god, you're my mate," and she was like, "Ugh, get away from me, you nasty cretin." Basically, yeah, she did not like him. And then they kind of fall in love over a period. It's like Brother Bear meets Aragorn, kind of thing.
Those are very different.
Yeah, it's like Brother Bear meets Aragorn, and like the original cover, and I was going to show it to you, but I don't like that cover. The hardback cover does not portray it very well. It was a Wattpad book, but the paperback cover, that is, if you have a look at the paperback cover, that's what you see when you read the book, and I guess it's Afrocentric, but it's not in the same breath. Like, you know, they're blackety black because they have their markings, they do their talismans, and you know, it's so many different aspects to it that it's not just a black girl running around fighting people. And I think what a lot of people didn't like about the book, from what I read on Goodreads, was, oh, we didn't realize it was a romance. It's like, well, most fantasy is a romance. What are you going on about? Like, Aragorn had an epic romance. What's it called? Sarah J. Maas, all romance. Like, come on, don't be silly.
Yeah.
And I think they just marked it down because it was a black woman, and I think they were expecting like Game of Thrones, like rah, dragons, and it wasn't really like that. It was more like, what's that? Raya and the Last Dragon. It was kind of like that.
Like that, yeah.
Yeah, it was like the dragons were a part of it, but they weren't like aggressively attacking people. Yeah, and they would have their human forms and their dragon forms, and it was everything I wanted in a dragon book is what that book was. So yeah.
You know what though? It's just like, I've said it already, and you know, just jump in if anyone wants to go next. I've said it already, but this is the third time it feels like this set up to fail business. Is anyone with me? Because it's just like the books, whether it's their cover, their title, their blurbs, the marketing, whatever you want to call it, people are going in thinking they're getting X and getting Y, and then leaving thinking, well, that wasn't good. And because of, you know, the nature of the book, I'm sorry, there are some people who are incredibly biased, and they're just going to be like, well, what's the killer terms? It's like, I wasn't able to relate to the characters. Weren't able to relate, bitch, but make it a fae warrior, assassin, 17-year-old virgin, or whatever you want to call it, but you can relate to that bitch though.
I would love to do a share screen and show you guys the two different covers. Is that possible?
I'm not. Oh, at the bottom, I think it is.
Yeah.
Share button. Have you got it?
Yeah. Share screen.
That would be fun.
I'm so sorry, guys. So we'll see how this goes. Screen number 2. Bum bum bum. Can you see my screen? So
No.
You can't see my screen.
No.
Oh, it's not letting. All right.
It's not letting me. All right, don't worry. We'll send. I'll add it to like the bottom of the description or something, and we'll have a look. What's the title again?
Give them. I'm gonna take a screenshot and just send it into the chat. Hopefully, you guys will be able to see it.
Okay.
I think you've mentioned this to me before. I think
I have. I told you. I think I've told you about it. Like when I tell you guys, it's one of my favorite books. And it's just so upsetting that the two covers, so the hardback cover, because I love a hardback book, the hardback cover does not. It doesn't give a good representation of what the book is about. Like when you see the paperback cover, you're like, yeah, that those are the characters that I saw in my head. What I saw in that other book cover, I don't know what that is. I don't know who they are, but the other cover,
that's the one.
Speaking of that,
go on, Katrina.
I was just gonna say I wouldn't be surprised if it was a setup. Like we know a lot of racism is institutionalized now. So yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if the whole thing wasn't a setup. Yeah.
Because hard books. I was going to say hard books come out before paperbacks in traditional publishing. So if the hardcover book wasn't it, it was supposed to fail. And then the paperback, they finally probably got what they wanted.
Yeah. That is a massive thing that people need to understand about the industry as well. In terms of, you know, the amount of runs, what's given, you know, the formats that are given out. You know, did a book get a hardback, a paperback, an ebook, and an audio? Maybe they didn't. Are you pushing this enough for people to really take it on board? Are you giving it to Bookstagrammers? Are you giving it to the right people who are going to appreciate it for what it is? Or are you just waiting for the cash cow of Sarah J. Maas on, you know, who turns up one day, gives you a bunch of books with 5 different million endings, makes her 5 million, and then fucks off home? Like, do you know what I mean? They're not giving enough to what needs to be out there. And a prime example, and I thank you guys for the comments because you've made me realize it. Son of the Storm.
I love that book. Sorry.
Okunboa, if I've said that correctly. I love that you've said you've loved it because we are in the Black Fiction Done Well one, but I haven't been able to get my head into it, bro. It's so dense.
Oh wow.
Do you know what it is? It's because it's written by a guy, and I think the differences between male and female writers, and I feel like with male writers when they're writing like a war scene or like something like I don't know, like a plot that's going to happen. It's very detailed. It's a little bit more detailed than what we would. Why am I saying we? I'm not an author. like we females would write it. I think, and theirs is more. It's not emotional. The way women write, we write very emotional. I don't know. I'm still including myself in this. One day, Jesus, give me that book to write. But I'm saying we because I think that's why you're probably struggling with it. But I read it I listened to it as an audio book because I struggled to read it as an actual physical book. I think it was very technical, the language, and I think sometimes it lacked a little bit of emotional language in the beginning of the book. But when you get kind of further down, you find that emotional aspect to the book. But yeah, I loved it.
No. I want to give it another chance because I've actually got like a Goldsboro edition and it's all fancy and nice, and I really do want to get into it because the world is so rich. Like, do you know what I mean? And it's just like I usually don't have an issue with male writers. Like a lot of my top 3 favorites are 2 of them are men. So I usually take quite well to that extensive world building. But this one, it was too many people. It was too many factions. It was, I don't know, like even now, what's the book? The Final Strife. Hold on, what is her name? Sarah Elfie? Sarah, guys, help me out. What's her name?
I have not heard of it. I'm sorry.
I haven't.
No, it's Sarah El Arifi. So she's, I guess, like Moroccan or Arabi or Muslim, just from that kind of part of the world. And her book is coming out soon called The Final Strife. And it's the same level of density. Like the info dumping at the beginning is too much. Like I'm using my brain here. And I know that sounds silly, but you know what I mean? Like you want to take information and you need to know what's going on, but you don't want to have to try for it. Right. And it's just like, what? I'm so tired. But yeah.
You don't want to fall into a book.
No, exactly. I just want to get into the action, and it's just like I got it on NetGalley, so I've got the ARC copy, and it's a bit too much. But as I said, we've digressed into what's bad again. Oh my god.
I have a couple of good ones.
Yeah, go good. Let's go back on track.
So I have 3 that I really, really love that kind of came to mind. The first one is not fantasy, but it's Now That I Found You by Christina Forrest. And it's like a YA romance, but I really loved it because the cover is two black characters, and she's very unapologetic about it. Like, I write love stories between black characters. That's it. That's what to expect from me. And I liked Now That I Found You because it was this aspect of like upper class Black America that you usually don't get to see, because the main character, the girl, she is basically a legacy actress. Her grandmother was an actress. Her parents are famous film producers. Like, she comes from a family of entertainers, and she falls into that and she gravitates toward that. And her love interest is a musician, and he's starting to take off. And so they have access and privilege that most normal people don't have, but their love story is still very genuine, and their problems are unique to them. But there's still this family dynamic with her and her family, where it's just like, in the beginning, and this isn't spoilers in the summary, she gets into a lot of trouble with her parents because basically a video goes viral of her drinking while her parents aren't there, and her parents find out, and they treat her like a child, not like she's some famous up and coming actress. And I just really loved that aspect of it, and all of the events that they go to, all the people they interact with. They're just unapologetically Black, but not in this stereotypical way. You know, like, these are upper class. They live in New York and on the Upper East Side, and they're going to parties and screenings and stuff. And it's just really good.
No, I appreciate that. It's good to see people in that in that setting. It's like veering slightly away, and we'll go back to the other book you wanted to mention. I don't know if you guys are watching And Just Like That, the Sex and the City thing. The new Sex and the City, it's like they're older now and blah, 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 blah. And it's both refreshing and annoying because now Carrie has black friends. And she's got one Asian friend who's like a estate agent, so a realtor kind of thing. She's Asian, and they're exactly like all the characters we've always had in Sex and the City. High-flying New Yorkers, we all make money, we're all rich. But suddenly, because it's 2022, they've now got like ethnic,
some black people in there, some ethnic people, yeah,
exactly. And like I said, that's the negative part of it, that it does feel very shoehorned in. But then it's also wonderful because Charlotte, obviously the Jewish one, Charlotte York, one of her new friends now is what's it called, Nicole Ari Parker, the one that's married to Boris Kodjoe. And in it, as I said, high-flying black people, like their kids go to the same private schools and they drive the same cars, and they're chauffeured around and stuff. And it's nice to see because we don't see that here, and it's not a thing that they're black, they're just rich. And it's just like, it's almost that doesn't happen in real life. Bitch, there's rich black folk, like they
everywhere.
You need to see them. Like, I want to be one, but
put it in the universe.
Put it out there. Manifest, baby, manifest. But it's lovely to see that she's, they're just as stylish and just as rich, and there's no issues just yet. Do you know what I mean? It's not the husband's cheating on me with my white secretary or anything like, stereotypical and like that. They're just wonderfully black and rich, and I just love it. But what was the other book you mentioned? And then we'll go into the next one.
The other book is T.J. Young and the Orisha by Antoine Bandele. And that's another YA. I read a lot of YA, y'all. I'm sorry. But it's another YA magical fantasy. But I liked it because it's not a chosen one story in the normal sense, because kind of like we mentioned earlier, he has his whole family unit. His sister is the one that he loses, but he's still got both of his parents. He's got his younger brother, and he is the one that's not magical. Like, everybody is fantastic and really big in this community, in this magical community, and he ain't fitting into the places where he's supposed to be fitting in. And there is like this black African equivalent of Hogwarts, right? And his sister graduated top of his class, and his family is very well known. He can't even apply because he doesn't have any magic. And as he starts to manifest it, he gets sent to basically a magical summer camp instead, where it's just like, okay, you have magic, but you don't know what to do with it, and you're much older. So if you want to go to this high school, you're going to have to work really hard. Right. And it's based around like the Orishas and stuff. But what I like about it is I feel like there's this really nice blend of, like, even though I don't know anything about the Orishas, I felt like I still enjoyed it, and it made sense. Like the gods and the myths and the lore and everything made sense within the confines of the book. And even though, like we talked about, like obviously Antoine is a man, but it was very easy to fall into the book. I didn't feel like there was this, like you said, super dense story. Like you immediately rooted for him, and all the characters are black. And I love that. Like all the characters black, the teachers, everyone. And it was just how they were. It's about the magic in the story, and not about, oh, this is how they're dressing, this is how they're interacting with each other, this is how they're greeting each other, and it being like, oh, this is such a culture shock. I've never seen children greet each other like this. Like, no.
No, I love that. I think no, it's wonderful, as I said, just to be existing in the black space and stuff like that, and it not be this whole culture shock, which is great. My example, and I'll just touch it really quickly on a black fiction that does that very well, is A Song of Wraiths and Ruin by Roseanne A. Brown. I don't know if anybody's read that one, and its sequel, A Psalm of Silence and something.
Sorrows, I think.
Yeah, these titles, they're just losing me. But no, A Song of Wraiths and Ruins I thought was really, really wonderful for once again the black royalty aspect. Like, she's just a princess. There's no, she's not a princess of a land that's been ravaged by anybody else. They're just royalty in this time that they exist, which is great. She also drew from the black Muslim aspect, which I really liked. It wasn't Orishas, it wasn't, kind of watered down Christianity. The boy's name is Malik and her name's Katrina, and a lot of, they read from like the Quran kind of thing, not necessarily the Quran, but their version of it kind of thing, which was really, really great. And it deals with mental health in young men and not being able to deal with it. Like Malik has anxiety and, you know, he suffers through depression and all this kind of thing. And Princess Katrina is wonderful again because she's quite a strong heroine in the sense of she's not a virgin. She does what she wants. She has various, you know, conquests and all these kind of things. And I think that is definitely a wonderful YA example of just existing in a Black space, which is great. Oh, someone says, let me just go to the comments again. I love this from Deja again. I love Black royalty stories, but I also really love following rich people. Don't we all? I think, oh, that's Aya. Yeah, Aya says, and Nancy Boys is also a really good fiction fantasy. Who wrote that one? That was you, wasn't it, Aya?
Sorry, I just realised I'm on mute. Neil Gaiman.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, so I liked it. I didn't actually realise that they were Black until I reread the thing, and I was like, wait, and Nancy Boys. But yeah, it's another. Yeah, and it's so I'm listening to it as an audiobook. So it's read by Lenny Henry. I don't know if you guys know who Lenny Henry is, but he's just absolutely amazing.
He's a British comedian, for those that don't know.
Yeah, that was what I was trying to say, British comedian, but absolutely in love with him. But yeah, and Nancy Boys is and Nancy's Boys, I think it's that the proper title. So maybe you get a chance to read it.
Okay, alrighty. Thank you so much for that so far. So I'm gonna do two things, and then we'll get some questions if anybody has any. Okay, so the first one, I did say I wanted to go back to Black love, because I do think that is such an important part of a lot of our stories and the stories that we do like to read. And then after that, we're going to touch on just kind of what we want to see going forward. We'll do questions and we'll wrap it up if that's all right. Okay, so first one, Black love, guys. Why I wanted to touch on this is, as I mentioned it briefly earlier, I find that in traditional fantasy or mainstream fantasy, whichever word you want to use, there will be a hot Black dude. For Sarah J. Maas, for example, it's one of the Lords of the Night Court, Hellion, however you pronounce it, but he is bisexual. Now, there is nothing wrong with this. Please don't jump down my throat. But what I'm saying is that in terms of having a strong, physical, heterosexual Black man for the female gaze, he's always his sexuality is always split amongst other people or just towards men. So he never has, like, you know, a Nubian queen wife or whatever. He's either, you know, is in a gay relationship, or he's with a white woman, or he's with a multitude of everybody, you know, or he's with everybody, which adds to the stereotype of Managalis, you know, the ones. So, you know, he's just flinging it back. Do you know what I mean? He's just, you know, just this seed kind of thing, just populating everything because he's so hot, so he can kind of thing. And that really bugs me. And not, as I said, once again, not because of the queer element, but just because of I'm heterosexual. So when I'm reading something, I want a boy that I can like on the page kind of thing, but it's almost written as he's not for me. So it's like, okay, fine. I have to fancy the enigmatic golden brown tanned ones. Like what? Or like the ones that look Mediterranean. Do you know what I mean? It's like, do you know what I mean? Oh, he's got wings and stuff. Yeah, but where's my Black boy with wings? Like, where's he? I want him.
Yeah,
absolutely. Kind of so that's always a thing that pops out at me, that they're never unapologetically Black and masculine and just strong. And one example of that I really do like is Rudjek from Raina Barron's Kingdom of Souls. I don't know if anybody's read that. Please do. He's basically Michael B. Jordan on a page, and I fucking love him. Oh my god. Oh my god. Yes. He's so hot, and I just I
was so upset for him and Ara, but then I was like, oh well, she can't have him, I can have him.
Listen, when she saw him, all right, fine, guys, go and read that book. But I just want to touch on Black love and any examples, good or bad, that you guys have found that you really liked, or yes, go Amanda, because I know you've got the queer kind of element as well, don't you? So go ahead, my friend.
Yeah, so I actually have a couple examples, two of which are here. So Heavy as the Head, Love and War. We can't. This is made for this. We got to talk about this because Makai,
Makai is bae. I know, yeah.
yes, but
Yes.
also being bisexual, BC as well. So I was reading it like, oh, Katrina, you've given me two love interests, girl. Thank you. I loved it.
No, thank you.
And then I would be remiss if I didn't say We Are the Origin, because I'm beta reading this for Chelsea right now. And when I tell you that Jack is everything,
Everything.
everything.
I love it.
He just the way that she's written Brandy and Jack's relationship, because I think a lot of stories are newer relationships that are people coming together, falling in love. And
Yep.
in Chelsea's book, Jack and Brandy are already together and they've been together for a long time. And so there's this enduring love that they have. And even in simple moments, like that's not a spoiler, but there's a moment where she's sleeping and like she still reaches out to touch Jack's leg as she's sleeping. Just that, like those moments, and I was reading it and I was like,
Yeah.
No, it's nice. It's nice.
so good.
No, I love the moves you're making, because that is essentially the feels. That's what we're after. And it's not that we don't feel them, reading interracial relationships or fully white relationships and stuff. It's fine. Like, romance is romance and we're girls and we all love it and blah, 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 blah. It's all of that. But it is wonderful to see what in some ways is reflective of your own relationships. You know what I mean? It's just like, in some ways, well, not me, because my partner isn't even fully black, but okay. But in some ways, you can look at a guy on a page and be like, yo, that's the guy next to me. Like, yeah.
Right.
It feels nice to see yourself and your partners and the things that you think are attractive on the page. And that is all I'm trying to get at, because, we can't endlessly have these ambiguously tanned dudes. Like, come on. Like, you can't use, no, I shouldn't say can't, you can. But just this ambiguous word of using the word brown, but then the art comes out and he looks like Rico Suave. And you're just like, what? Like, I read this and he was meant to be brown. Where is he? Like, do you know what I mean? Stop doing this to us. It's not fair. It adds to, and on a more sinister note, it adds to the whole labeling and stereotyping that everything about blackness, i.e. wonderful thick lips and golden tanned skin and, oh, she was curvaceous. Bitch, I woke up curvaceous. Don't irritate me, okay? No, you know what I mean? It's like they use the blackness to be attractive, but step away from it every 2 seconds, so they're not quite there yet.
They're not
They're not, they're not. I never explicitly said, but they're tanned. And that they're doing it on purpose, and you, without a doubt, know they're doing it on purpose, because it's always the boys. The boys are the sexualized black men, i.e. the field slave / N-word, the white woman gaze looking at him, being strong and,
it's all sweaty and oiled up.
Thank you, all oiled down. But the woman is some like pasty English rose. Do not piss me off, okay? So the men are allowed to be dark, ethnic, exotic, or whatever, but the woman's still pale as day. What?
Right.
But and a lot of the time they're from the same place, so why is she not tan too?
Right. You know what kills me is when they're like in a family unit and it's just like he's dark, mom's dark, dad's dark, but she somehow got super light skin, almost got freckles and good hair. And I'm like, okay, mom got an afro, dad got an afro, somebody is lying. Okay, that's not how Punnett squares work.
It's given very Martin, it's given very Martin. I will say another example of black love from a queer standpoint is Master of Jen by P. Gillet Clark, and he's a straight man, but he wrote this queer relationship between Fatima and Siti very well for being a straight man. And also Fatima she's African, but not from Egypt, so she does have like darker skin and fuller features, and she's such a beautifully written heroine, and she's got swag. Like she wears these suits like 3-piece suits with a pocket square and a bowler hat, and she's so
wow, she's
fashionable.
fly.
She is.
Oh,
Listen, she's always like, I've got my cane, I've got my suit, I've got my gold cufflinks. Like, you read her and you're just like, can I be you?
yes.
But her and City's relationship is just so beautiful and wonderful. And there's a moment where City's like braiding her hair and like taking care of her in that way. And it's so heartwarming to read and to see that kind of relationship on page, because again, with queer relationships, it's usually like interracial or they're not that darker skin. So it is nice to read that on the page as well.
No, it definitely is. And I just want to take a step backwards as well, because obviously we have touched on the kind of colorism, light dark thing. And, you know, once again, we said before we started, you know, nobody wants to say anything to offend or disregard anybody of, you know, various levels of blackness, because, you know, every one of us here and even people in the comments, we're all black, but you know, we're all different types of black, and that is perfectly fine. There is nothing wrong with the positive light-skinned woman, but there is also, you know, nothing wrong with putting in a positive dark-skinned woman. The same way we don't want the constant stereotype of a negative light-skinned woman. So because she has good hair and light skin and blah, 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 she automatically thinks she's better than everybody else. There are stereotypes for both sides that need to be stopped any which way around. And we are all very clear of that, you know, of that situation kind of thing. A dark-skinned person can be the heroine and a light-skinned person can be the villain. That's just the way it is. You know, so not even try, because we're not stupid, but try to, you know, if you are a writer or a reader, or try to lift up those narratives as well as the other ones.
I've got a black, it's not really black love though, it's, well, I don't know, I feel like because they're an interracial couple, to me it still kind of classifies as black love, and I think it's one of my favorite ones actually. Actually, I've got two, but I'll give you like my ultimate favorite one, which is in Aragon. So Nasuada and Mertgar, I don't know if I'm saying his name right, and I'm so sorry if I'm butchering his name, but their love stemmed from book one, and I will never forget the day the penny dropped for me. So I was rereading Aragon ahead of Inheritance coming out, and it's like a paragraph. I can't remember what chapter it is, but it's literally a paragraph, and it's about her when he was in prison. She was the one bringing him the food. She was the one like talking to him. She was the one basically not keeping him alive, but she was the one like being his friend, even though he was in prison and he was, you know, technically a prisoner. She wasn't treating him badly.
Yes.
And they were kind of falling in love, and I can't remember what the exact line was, but I remember reading that and saying she's the one that's going to break his curse. Because obviously by that time we've already read Eldest, and we know he's under Galbatorix's curse. And I knew that she was going to break it because,
No, I said I need to finish that one actually.
Oh yeah, so you can. Oh, I'm sorry if you haven't read Aragon, because this is just all blatant spoilers. But I know. But yeah, like by the time you get to Inheritance, no, not Inheritance, no. Sorry, by the time I reread it in time for Brisinga. By the time you get to Inheritance, which is the fourth book, you already know that she's the one that's going to break the curse with him because of how strong their love was, you know. And even though he felt so hopeless, and I hate the thing of black women being, you know, the superwomen or whatever, but it was his love for her that broke the curse. It wasn't only her love. Yeah. Does that make sense? Like it's showing that, you know, and I guess it's the whole you can change a man business, blah blah blah. But it was seeing that love blossom in somewhere where it was unlikely to blossom, you know. And for me, that is one of my favorite, I guess, black love stories. That I guess they're not really black because it's mixed race, but you know, it's something that I really, really appreciated because she was a dark-skinned girl. She was, and that was how she was described. She was described as a dark-skinned girl, which I, like you said, Charlie, like I saw myself and I was like, yeah, that's my people. She comes from the little continent, the dusty continent. That's where I'm from, you know.
Go on, Trina.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. But I would want to even take another like position into just like, I want to see black love in a sense where the black MC loves themselves and they love everything about themselves. And I think a book that really did a good job with that, Charlie, I'm gonna go back to Wolves of Duty, Because Aspen was she was a black girl through and through, and there wasn't a part of herself that she didn't love. Of course she had her own internal battles, but there wasn't a part of her blackness, just her being herself that she didn't love. She loved her black peers. She loved, her black man. I ain't gonna do too much spoiling. But I just thought that was a really good take on it. Like how we talked about before, how there are these black tales where, either the black girl, she doesn't really quite either love herself or love her peers. She doesn't quite fit in, so she feels awkward in her blackness. But I think Wills of Duty did that very well. I think To a Stand with Love did that very well as well.
Yeah,
Mercury was black through and through. You could not tell him that he was not.
Yeah,
he was not coming for him in his blackness or his black friends. It was not that was not a conversation to be had.
Yeah.
So yeah, even just black love in that sense of just like that main character just loving themselves in their black selves in their black worlds and not feeling like they had to appease the white gaze in that sense, or like even change themselves for the people that they love. Aspen was very much a black girl herself. Was you gonna love all of me in my weave or my braids, my dress or my jeans. Like you're gonna take me how you got me.
But if you want to bring it back to what Charli started with Kingdom of Souls, like even the fact that you've got the Demon King, quote unquote, the Demon King, because he was not a Demon King. Yes. Him and the sister, I can't remember what her name is now, and they broke the world for their love. Can you imagine? They loved each other that much, and every time they're reborn, they keep finding each other. How fucking shitty is that? Yeah. And it's her siblings that are trying to keep them apart, and he's just like, nah, that's my woman, and he's going for her. Oh God.
No wonder.
God.
Your feels are coming through the screen.
Like I see the love that other people are having. That's the kind of love I want too. Yeah.
Right.
100%, guys. Kingdom of Souls, its sequel, Reaper of Souls, the third book, Master of Souls, is coming out later this year, I think. But definitely jump on that for all its just positive blackness. It's got like the magic is voodoo based kind of thing. So kind of witch doctors. The girl starts out not having her own magic, and that's her kind of catalyst into what she needs to do and stuff like that. So yeah, it's just a really good book to take on in that sense. As I said, she grows up with this really hot guy, Rajek. She fancies him. He's a warrior, like a pseudo prince. Like he's not the prince, but he's like really high up in the royal court and stuff like that. So there's that element.
I like him already. What's the name of this book again?
Kingdom of Souls. No, it's really good. It's really, really good. Another comment before we start wrapping up. It says someone pointed out in a comment section that they always have a person of color love interest in the second movie of teen romances on Netflix, as if they didn't have the chance with the main white girl. And it was like, yeah, I totally get that. we see that a lot. Let's see. Deja also said Caius and Saber are heart eyes. I wanted Caius for me, girl.
Girl, Caius is mine. No.
You're gonna have to fight about a million other girls in front of you because Caius is just a fan favorite. I'm not gonna lie, he is wonderful, and from his creator, he was just the easiest person to write because he's just so sweet. He has a literal heart of gold despite I wouldn't say trauma, but just despite certain things, trials and things against him, and whether it's physically, emotionally, he's always alone, and it has made him such a more receptive kind of character. So I do understand the love. What I was going to say about those as well, in terms of me being stereotypical, so in my Caius is obviously dark skin and Saber is light skin. And my mum actually did say to me, like, why are the ruling family the light skinned ones? Like, and why are they the white wolves? Like, oh yeah, I didn't realize that. I was like, I don't know, because I felt like it. I don't know. But when it comes to fantasy tropes, it's usually always the dark and brooding guy that's the hot one. So I made it more of a choice for Caius to be the dark wolf, just to be moody, as opposed to the ruling family being white wolves. Like, they could have been anything. I didn't give a shit. I just wanted Caius to be the dark black wolf. Do you know what I mean? So I was just really obsessed with that. But that's been good. Let's see. Yeah, go on.
Something else I think that we kind of touched on this earlier too, especially when you were talking about the other Black girls. I think another type of Black love that we would all like to see more of is Black love and friendships.
Yeah.
Black friendships, and also like platonic Black friendships where it's like men and women, they're non-binary people as well, and Black women together, and Black male friendships, and healthy examples of these. So I think that that's also something that's important. And that's one of the things I tried to do in my most recent book, especially in the House of Transcendence, which has an all Black cast and all mostly queer cast. And I wanted to also show that those levels of friendships and how you can love somebody with your friendship and help them, like, build them up by friend, like as a friend. And it's not just a partner that can do that for somebody. And hopefully that comes across when you guys read it, because it's coming out later this summer.
Yes. We're going to do our selfless promos in a minute. So I'm really looking forward to that one. As I said at the beginning, not just, because we're friends and we talk and stuff like that, but I really like Amanda's genre mesh, because, it's very easy to read fantasy romance all the time because it's what you like. But I really do enjoy the magical realism and the kind of contemporary side of her writing, which is amazing. I definitely obviously need to start my journey into Chelsea's work. So once that is ready, do let me know. Katrina, obviously I was critique partner, beta reader, art reader, for heavy as the head. It's basically my book too, bitches. We all know I love Mackay. We all know I love BC. Like, it's one of those ones. And obviously with Io, who isn't actually a writer, we do obviously appreciate your insight into the breadth of books that you do read, because it's easy to pick things we don't like about stuff, but Io has a plethora, as it were, of Black book content that I, before meeting her, I hadn't heard of, I wasn't aware of, and I loved that in terms of being so Afrocentric in her reading, because we can fall into the traps of just constantly reading, as I said, traditional YA, blah blah blah, with a few Black people in it. But Io has been a wonderful addition to my friendship group in terms of finding Black books by Black people. And, I still need to do my own work in filling up my shelves of those things, of those writers. And I really do obviously appreciate that. So we are getting close to about 2 hours, guys. Wow. So let me remove this. I'm going to put up some question time. So if anyone in the comments has any questions for myself, Chelsea, Amanda, Io, or Katrina, do let us know in the comments, as you've been doing. While we're doing that, self-promo time. So, Chelsea, we'll start from you. Amanda, Katrina, Io, let us know everything you guys are getting up to, where you want people to follow you, etc., etc., etc.
Etc., etc. Okay. So, I guess I'll start with YouTube. While you guys are here, I do have a channel called Written in Melanin that is for Written in Melanin LLC, where my whole brand is about uplifting Black authors, especially Black indie authors, because I just feel like the world needs more of our stories. So I have a weekly stream that I do on Tuesdays at 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, where we talk about everything Black and bookish with another podcaster. Her name's Audra Russell. She does Between the Reads, where she interviews Black indie authors, and it's called The Melanin Chat. So subscribe to my channel. Also have a podcast called the Written in Melanin Podcast, where I just talk about my journey as an indie author, and I share what I have learned as a person, as an author, as a creator, so on and so forth. Also have my book coming out over here. It is called We Are the Origin. It is about a group of assassins who have to save the gods in their realm from destruction. It is available for pre-order on both my website and Amazon. So whichever one makes you happy, feel free to do that. And on the internet, I also run the Melanin Library. So if you're ever looking for books by Black authors, you can just go to melaninlibrary.com. All the books on there are written by Black authors. They're sorted by genre. They're sorted by age range, whatever you're looking for. And there's a search bar, so you can just type it in and look for it. Amanda's books are on there. Katrina's books are on there. Charli's books are on there. So you can definitely find more information from it there. Check them out. And there's over 2,000 books on the database, and it's still growing. So
Wow,
there's
that's
that.
amazing.
Wow. That is awesome.
And then, yeah, I think that was it. Oh, I'm C. Lockhart, right?
it.
And written in melanin, and the Melanin Library all over the internet. So I'm everywhere.
As it says across the screen, all links and usernames, obviously spellings and things like that, will be available in the descriptions, alongside of all our links and pages and stuff like that. So if it's going a bit fast for you, don't worry. You can go back at your leisure. Next up, Amanda.
So my books, To a Stare with Love and To Lars in Desperation, are two of a 3-part series of my Witch Kind series. It is new adult, it is contemporary fantasy, black male witch fighting for his people while also hanging out with friends and living in LA. I'm from California, this is very LA centric, so there we go. I also just finished writing my next book, In the House of Transcendence. It is about a necromancer who's trying to figure out how to control her powers while also trying to solve a murder, and this very magical queer community in Savannah where 3 magical houses are fighting for dominance, and a magical burlesque club. I just got the cover sketched back today, and it is everything, so I can't wait to share that with y'all.
Love it.
In addition to my books, you can also find me at Amanda the Author with 2 E's on TikTok, Instagram, and also YouTube. On my YouTube channel, I give tips on all aspects of authoring, I say. So book marketing, book writing, also author self-care, because I am kind of just recovering from an author burnout from last year. So I'm really wanting to talk about the importance of self-care in our community. I am also 1/3 of Lit Bitches, which is a bi-monthly chat with 2 other indie authors, including Katrina, on my YouTube channel. And finally, I am also 1/2 of the Horror Ho support group. It's a book club and also a podcast. Ho spelled Heaux because we fancy. And you can find the first 3 episodes on Spotify. We talk about horror from a Black female lens, but we primarily talk about Black horror. And when we are not talking about Black horror, we're talking about why is this not existing in Black horror. Our most recent episode was about zombies. So check it out, y'all. It's great.
Oh, no, lovely. As you've said, zombies, I'm going to start Dread Nation soon.
I love Dread Nation
Love
so
it.
much.
Yeah, I haven't read that yet, but I heard good things. I was like, ooh, black zombies killings. I'm good. Katrina.
Yes, this is amazing. I'm Katrina and Lewis. You can find me on Instagram, TikTok, Twitter. Yeah, that's it. At Katrina Writes _ I have an adult fantasy novel, Heavy is the Head, Love and War, which you can see on this side. It is adult because we having sex, y'all, and it's fantasy and dragons and all that good stuff. So if you want to check it out, you can. It's available on Amazon. I'm currently writing its sequel, Heavy is the Head, Kingdom Come. It'll be out soon. I don't have a date yet, but I'm trying. But you can check out, I have a paranormal fantasy romance called Love Bites. It is free to read. It's on Wattpad, so please like. Oh yeah, I'm there too at Katrina Writes _ so find me there. So please like, comment, share, tell a friend, all that good stuff. I'm 2/3 of Lit Bitches with Amanda the Author. And yeah, no, I think that's all I got. I think that's me.
I think that's me. Like, isn't it just wonderful listening to everything we do? Isn't it? No, do you know what I mean? It's like we have our moments of doubt and tiredness, and even Amanda mentioned just author burnout and things like that. But ladies, the things we are saying, the things we are doing, the movements we are making, we are wonderful, we are beautiful, we are doing so much, and it's just great to see. Io, your turn.
I keep putting myself on mute. I feel like I'm in a Zoom meeting.
Hopefully it's more fun than a Zoom meeting.
Oh, no, definitely is. So I'm Io. You can find me at Io's Fantasy Podcast. So that is basically on Instagram. I do have a Twitter account, but I don't really use it that much. So forgive me. So that is my book reviewing podcast. I review all fantasy books that I read. I did have a 1-year hiatus. I just... like Amanda, I had a burnout. and I was in a book club, and we weren't really reading fantasy, and a lot of the books were really heavy. And as someone that reads fantasy, it just I couldn't cope. And then I launched Nubian Dragon Chest. I got it on the right side this time, yes. And it is a fantasy book subscription box, which basically deals in fantasy books by Black and I guess Asian authors. So the first book I've done or I launched with was Charli Murphy's. I don't know why I said it while she's not sat right in front of me. Like you don't know who she is. With Charli Murphy's Genesis of Dragons, and I thought it was a perfect way to launch my book box because it's dragons. My book box is called Nubian Dragon Chest, wrong side, and it's not an Afrocentric fantasy book, but it's a fantasy by a Black author who you wouldn't think is a Black author because of her name, and I just kind of really wanted it to be like kapow, kapow, pow, in everyone's faces. Within the box, you get a dragon incense head burner, you get a signed book from Charli, you get the incense cones, you get a custom bookmark. I can't remember what. There's character cards, a map, quite a lot of stuff in there. And I just wanted to build a platform for Black authors to showcase their work. I think until Witches Steeped in Gold, I don't think I'd ever seen a book box that was done around a Black fantasy book. So I keep saying a lot of and it's nerves because I'm excited. But I guess why the Nubian Dragon Chest is different from the book boxes that you get out there is that what you're getting in the box is directly related to the book. So you're not going to get a book and then things from other books inside the books. Like I realized when I was watching a lot of box openings and reviews and stuff, that was a lot of things that people didn't like that they would get in the book, which was nice, a signed book or whatever, a limited edition book, and then you'd get like 10 things about different things that you had no idea which book they came from. So I wanted it to all match. I do ship worldwide, and it will be a quarterly book box, not a monthly book box.
Oh, nice. So
that
definitely
awesome.
Say again?
I said that's awesome.
No, it is definitely, guys. As I said, book boxes, because even Katrina, Heavy as the Head, was part of the January Nerdy Book Box, which was amazing. So we need to, the same way people are jumping for Fairy Lou or you know, Owl Crate or whatever the fuck it's called, the Luma Crate and all that kind of stuff. Don't get me wrong, I was a sucker for some of them too. I have a few of those subscriptions, but when it comes down to promoting what we want and people getting that out there, definitely subscribe if you want, more of that kind of content. Before we get into question time, obviously myself, last person, I am Charlotte Murphy, aka Charli Author. I am the author of what I call the Eververse series, which is basically the Antonides Legacy, which is a YA fantasy trilogy. It's prequel, Genesis of Dragons, and now Wolves of Duty, which all feature in the same world. You don't have to have read the previous 4 to read Wolves, which is what people ask me all the time. No, they just exist in the same universe at different times, kind of thing. So, there'll be an Easter egg in Wolves of, a place or a person's name, and if you have read the others, you'll be like, oh, that's that person, kind of thing. As I said, Wolves of Duty is a paranormal fantasy romance, I guess. The romance is secondary, but it's there. It's my first outing in this, fully Black cast. I've had Black characters before this, but this is my first outing to have a predominantly Black cast, and I can't gush about it enough in the sense of it's the book I've always wanted to write. It's it's the book I love. It's the book I want you guys to love, if you know what I mean. It's like, when someone says they love it, I cannot even deal with the oxytocin and the endorphins that explode. It's just, I love this book more than anything I've ever done in my life. Well, until my baby comes. But yeah, I love this book so very much. And it's out into the world on March 2nd. From the 28th of February, we have release week games and stuff on my live. So if you follow me on Charli Author, you can participate to win a hardback copy of Wolves, which is down here somewhere, to win a hardback copy which features a bonus chapter. What else do? I do this podcast, obviously, books and shit. I'm going to do a lot more live streams of that because this was such a wonderful, wonderful day. Thank you all for joining. And what else? Those are my main things: writer, podcaster. You can find me at Charli Author on all socials. It took me a while to make all of them the same spelling, letter, everything. You know what I mean? Literally put Charli Author into Google and it will all be there. So yeah, that is me. I'm not going to go on, obviously. We're going to go to questions really quickly. There were a few quick ones. Blah, 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 blah. So Deja says, what are y'all currently reading? I'll go first so I can start talking for a bit. I'm currently reading Sarah J. Maas's Crescent City 2. It's alright. It's alright. She promised me smut. There's no smut. It's like 400 pages in. Why didn't I fuck it? I don't know.
What?
I don't
Wow.
know. Like, don't get me wrong. I'm a huge Sarah J. Maas whore. Like everybody is. When the books come out, we all just really engage, kind of thing. And it's kind of like what we said about setups. She said the book was going to be this. It's not that I just need smut, all jokes aside. She said the book was going to be like another book that's quite smutty. And it just hasn't been. So now I'm like, where's it at? Like, you promised me this and I can't find it.
This shit.
Yeah, it's up for something that it currently isn't. And I'm just like, okay. But that's what I'm reading. How about you, Chelsea? Are you reading anything?
I am reading a couple things. So I'm beta reading In the House of Transcendence by Amanda Ross, this lovely woman over here.
Yeah.
I am also reading Bloodland by Audra Russell, which is like a horror kind of about a Black couple who purchase a plantation, but they find out once they purchase it that it's actually haunted. And so the woman is trying to figure out how to get rid of the ghost. And she's also like massively pregnant. So she's trying to do it before her baby arrives.
Wait, what's that one called?
Bloodland by Audra Russell.
Yeah,
Nice.
see, I need that for the book club, so I'm gonna write that down.
Yeah.
I got you.
Wow.
Yes. All right, go on.
That sounds intense.
So yeah, those are the two things that I'm reading right now aside from like my own book because I'm doing edits. So yeah.
Yes. Oh, yes, same. Sorry, guys. Wolves is out March 2nd. The sequel, maybe September. Maybe.
Ooh.
Whoa. Yes.
She's killing it.
Yeah, editing is kicking my
I feel like I waited a year, so I'm glad. I'm glad.
So that's the thing. It's drafting is 100% drafting. I've got a little sticker manifesting September 22, so we'll see. But between now and then, I will have a child, so I don't know. Okay, we'll see. But yeah, putting that out there. Amanda, what are you reading?
So I'm beta reading We Are the Origin. We Are the Origin by Chelsea. It's wonderful. Y'all are gonna love it. It's wonderful. You have to read this book. In addition to that, I'm also reading Blackwater Tales: The Unwanted by Jean Nicole Rivers. It's a indie horror book about a teacher who goes to a potentially haunted school for kids, and she's working there, and there's hauntings happening. I'm also listening because I always have a book I'm reading physically and then I'm listening to Ring Shout by P. Gillette Clark right now.
Nice. Thank you, Katrina.
I am reading over and over again, Heavy is the Head Kingdom Come, because I'm trying to get it done. Lord have mercy. I am also beta reading In the House of Transcendence, which is amazing. I'm having so much fun, Amanda girl. I cannot wait. I just finished Dominic's Mysterious Bridesmaid. It's like a contemporary romance by Miss Sassy, the author. It was really good. I enjoyed it. It was cute. Nice. And I'm listening to A Ruin of Roses. I don't know how I feel about it, but
wait, is that smart one?
Yeah.
Girl, put that down. That's shit.
Yeah,
that's just not good. I cried through that, but it's so bad.
It's like they're like cursing, and it's like I called them a motherfucking flapjack, and I'm just like,
it's meant to be a fantasy world in a castle, but you're talking about what? Like it's silly. It's very, very silly. Don't read that.
I just passed the part where he was like, "Use that vibrator, darling," and I'm just like,
no.
I'm like, this is just not it.
And Epic is bad, guys. Epic is bad.
I think I might be crossing that off my
It was the accent for me.
That's how he says it. That's literally how he says it.
I'm quite proud of you for that. I'm not gonna lie. I'm quite proud of you for that one. But no, that's one of the worst kind of lower smart levels of that one. It's a bit bad.
Good.
It's not good. How about you?
The others are very good.
Yeah.
So I've just finished reading A Legacy of Storms and Starlight by Victoria J. Price. Comes out next week on the 22nd of February. Yeah. I really enjoyed it. I don't want to give too much away, but I basically spoke about it, and I have my latest episode of Ice Fantasy is this book. I really enjoyed it. I'm about to start rereading Balls of Duty. I would love to be a beta reader for you ladies. Like, send me some books. But yeah, that's it actually. It's really boring, but I'm listening to a parenting book at the moment as well. It's called Raising Lions. So it's to make me a better parent, I suppose. So I've got a 4-year-old. Yeah. That's it.
Wonderful. I like that. There was one for Katrina and then one other one, and I think we're done. Deja also says, how many books in the Heavy as the Head series will there be?
So it will be a duology. So there are 2 books, and I also have a free prequel that you can check out called A Crimson City. So that's free. You can go to my link tree, check it out. It's like 20 pages. And then, of course, Heavy is the Head of the full-length sequel. And then I'm working on Kingdom Come, which will be the end of the duology series.
Fantastic. And very, very last one, because I say that a lot. One piece of advice for Black writers writing fiction. Come on, girls, this is our moment to sound smart. Let's go. Who wants to go first? Amanda?
Oh, called out. Okay.
I was like, yeah, pass the buck. I'm the host. You do.
Okay, so my biggest piece of advice would be to not be afraid to be authentically yourself, tell the story that you want to tell, but also at the same time, understand and know that you don't know everything. That's okay. And that's what having a strong writing community is for. I honestly would not be anywhere without these ladies, without Chelsea, without Katrina, without any of these ladies. They made my life so much better, my writing better. And so, be yourself, tell a story you want to tell, but don't be afraid to ask for help and engage with a solid writing community sooner than later.
Yeah. Awesome. Who's next? Chelsea?
Let me go.
Oh, Mia, go on. Yeah.
I'm not a writer, but in terms of I was going to say, in terms of a reader, from a reader's perspective, I would say don't be disheartened if people don't like your books. Okay. As much as me and Charli get on so well, I'm not even going to name the book before she starts casting the book. But there's a book that I really like that she doesn't really like, and we bonded over fantasy. Do you know what I'm saying? So, everybody's not your target audience, but somebody will be your target audience.
Yeah.
So write what's in your heart, basically.
100%, definitely. Who's next?
I would say my biggest piece of advice would be to write the story that you want to write, and make sure that when you read it, you're happy with it, because you're going to read it like 1,000,000 times. And make sure that it is the story that you want to tell, and that you're not have an audience in mind, but don't get so caught up in writing something that they're going to enjoy that it becomes something that you didn't want it to be. So make sure that it's always your thing that you're giving to someone else, and it's not someone else's thing that you have your name on.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
That is a massive one, definitely. I think mine is don't force your creativity. If you don't want to write today, don't write today. If you want to bang out 3,000 words in 10 minutes and then look at it again for 6 weeks, that is perfectly fine, because kind of off the back of what some of the other girls have said, it's you don't want to force yourself to be or write something that isn't authentically you, and that is not going to come from having forced those words and forced those scenes or forced those chapters, because you're just going to go back to it tomorrow and be like, what did I write? So we can have self-imposed deadlines. Some people do like to work to schedules and things like that, but to avoid author burnout, as Amanda said, to avoid writing slumps, as Katrina's mentioned to me a few times, do what you can when you can. Nobody is rushing you. I mean, other than readers like Aya, but no. Nobody is rushing you to put this stuff out. So just don't force your creativity. Don't force your magic. Just be authentically who you are. That would be my thing. So on that note, thank you so very, very much for you guys making my first live stream Books and Shit just so fun. Thank you so very, very much. I'm definitely gonna do more of these, both with this wonderful panel, you know, just talking about stuff we like, and just generally speaking different topics and stuff. You know me, I'm quite eccentric and whatever with different people that I feature. So thank you for joining me today, and also thank you guys in the comments for listening, for tuning in live. This is going to essentially be next week's episode, so you know, if you want to listen back to it again, it will obviously be online. If you want to watch it back again, but if you want to listen, it will be next week's episode of Books and Shit. So it will just be there for you or friends to check back on later. Everybody's details will be in the descriptions, both on my page, on the YouTube page, etc. So if you, not even if you, go and follow everybody for all our wonderful projects and works and stuff like that you've heard so much about today. So if you are intrigued, please go and find them. Have a wonderful night, evening. I think it's morning to Amanda. You know what I mean? It's what? It's like after 8 now. I'm going to have dinner.
It's 3:15 for me.
There you go.
Same.
So, wherever you guys are, just have a wonderful day, evening, afternoon, and you know, I'll see you on the gram and Twitter and all that stuff. Great stuff. Bye, guys.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.